Let's just jump right into it like we do with most of our guests. What has been going on? Anybody that has followed you or gets your emails, rugby strength coach closed down. Talk about that.
Yeah, man. Uh, yeah, it's just a couple of reasons. I feel like one of the reasons why people have previously liked what I put out or engaged with me or given a fuck about what I have to say is the fact that it was like fairly authentic, which is probably not that I'm like a complete open book 100% of the time, but it's like I feel like compared to the average, how I interact with people and present myself online is much closer to the reality of how I am day to day. And I feel like what is lacking in the industry is people will behave one way online and then a completely different way in person. And the reality is that that site existed because of my heavy involvement in the sport of rugby, my day-to-day work in the sport of rugby, my achievements in the sport of rugby, like all that good stuff. And when I worked in Japan, that was the last straw. I basically didn't take a holiday really. I think I took the longest I took was maybe a week once in 5 years through the end of the World Cup. And I was kind of like running out of steam towards the end of the World Cup, not sure what to do. Then I got the offer to go to Japan, and it was a lot of money, but then it just absolutely sapped every last drop of enthusiasm that I had for the sport of rugby. And once I moved to the States, switched to football, since then, I've been in the States 5 years, this January just gone. And I've watched 2 games of rugby in that time. And, one of them was on TV at home back in England when I took the baby over to introduce him to everyone. And then another game was when I was in San Diego visiting Ryan, not really on purpose watching rugby. And the thing is, it's just like, I feel, putting stuff out there under the Rugby Strength Coach brand, it's good shit. The programs that I could write now, they're better than the programs that I was writing in 2015, better than 2010 and so on. And it's good value. Like I'll put those programs up against anyone else providing stuff for rugby players. But I feel like to grow that brand, to grow the website, to try and reach the biggest audience of rugby players possible and have the biggest impact possible, cannot come from a place where I've completely fallen out of love with the game. And that aside, if you look at my career, I've not coached full time in over 2 years. And again, I kind of half jokingly said it online the other day, which is like, I put my track record, my skill set up against most people that are dumb enough to argue with me online. And I could comfortably go back tomorrow and do a better job. But to be driving, a website of like high level strength and conditioning for rugby when I have watched 2 rugby games in 5 years and I am not a full-time strength coach, to me, lacks authenticity. And the fastest growth is going to come from a place of enthusiasm, eat, sleep, breathe, whatever it is you're doing. And, I'm not even like embarrassed to admit it, but it's like when we went to CVASPs last year and, we got up, I love Yosef, spoke to Yosef, talking to him about a bunch of books. And I think I bought like 2 books. And because, I've known him for 10 years, he like chucked another 2 in the pile. So I had 4 books. Good books. Like I know some of those authors, really, really good. Haven't read them. Haven't even touched them since then. And it's like, for me, the business stuff is almost, for obvious reasons, the business stuff has almost taken over. Because it's like making sure that, you, Fernando, JJ get paid. it's not going to be about how well I can coach plyometrics. It's going to be like, fuck, like I need to get a lot better at business and I need to make that my focus. So I'm still interested, especially in serving coaches, but it's more so from the perspective of helping them to basically recognize the fact that they're in an industry which is pushing their wages down, and be like, okay, well, what can we do about that? And I feel like the most effective way to tackle the challenges facing the average strength coach today is financially. Hence,
Yeah, and
I can't do that focusing on rugby strength coach.
And so, you had the tiger and you posing. For anybody that hasn't seen it, talk about what that, the strength coach money moves. What is it that, again, you put it out there on social. So talk about it.
So one of the things that has, come up again and again throughout the history of Strength Coach Network and interacting with strength coaches, which is we have our goal has been to serve strength coaches. And primarily that is, that's in the form of career advancement, of which technical knowledge and skill is absolutely a major factor, which is why Strength Coach Network continues to do well to this day, as do the materials. However, when you have things come up like, well, how do I negotiate for, this job? How do I get this in my career? How do I do this? How do I do that? It fundamentally comes down to money problems, because it's the person who is willing to step away from the table in a negotiation who is most dangerous. And there's only two ways that you can do that. One is to have other options, and two is to be a complete fucking lunatic ready to blow everything up. And if anyone ever calls your bluff in the second, you're fucked. So in reality, if I think back to my own career or other individuals in the field, the ones who operate from a position of strength in negotiations, career advancement, and so on, is they have alternative sources of income that give them independence. All too often in the field, you see like, oh, this guy's a fucking dickhead. Like, I wish I could speak my mind about this, this, and this. But if you did, they would fire you. You have no other income. You have nowhere else to go. You bite your tongue. You stay in that job and stuff like that. And I really do think that, until you can get your career to the point where you're coaching for fun, not because you absolutely have to, you're not operating at the highest level of independence, honesty. Certainly for me, now that I got a kid, I got a wife, all that kind of stuff, I said it to TK the other day, which is, I feel he feels the same as well, which is, you should never be put in a situation again where someone with that level of judgment gets to dictate how well you can feed your family or not. And, to that end, the money moves thing is like, okay, am I the world's best business person? No. Have I made more in a day, a week, a month than most strength coaches have ever made in terms of side income? Sure. And to that extent, maybe there's value that I can share with other coaches and put them in a position that they aspire, or closer to a position that they aspire to be. And, it's like money where your mouth is, like skin in the game. I've tried to set this course up where, hey, it's $1,000. Well, normal pricing, $1,000. Pre-register, $750. That's a bunch of money, yes. But if you follow this course as outlined, you do as you're told, you ask for help, and you document your implementation of those steps, if you don't make that 1,000 back in 10 weeks, I'll pay you the difference. So that's what I'm trying to work towards right now, which is to just have it like a mini army of less offensive me's telling schools, admins, whatever, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't need this money. from the school, you know, because you have that like that robustness. The business with one customer is run by an idiot, and you're the CEO of you.
You've posted, a lot of success stories from people that you've been working with without, naming names or, respecting people's privacy. Just talk
Yeah,
about what you've done and.
it's very sneaky. So I charge people money to coach them up on their businesses in order to create testimonials and case studies and develop the materials for the course. It's just a more personalized, intensive version of what's included in the course, and to validate those ideas. And that's one of the things that actually gets taught in the course, which is you don't want to make big bets. What you want to do is get feedback on your assumptions as early as possible at the lowest amount of work and cost possible. So, for example, what I could have done is I could have gone off, written a long form course, 10-hour-long modules, done the worksheets, done the practical tasks, made a website, made a social media profile, like all that shit, and then sold it. I know now it's going to sell, but when I'm building that, if I'd have done that, I don't know that it's going to sell. And I've done this. Look at the audit for Strength Coach Network. Put a month, probably $1,000 into it, absolutely tanked for some reason. And I was thinking about it the other day. It's like, is it because I'm shit at business? Quite possibly. But if you look at like the Amazon Fire Phone, how many of them do you see around today? $500 million mistake. Like even elite level businesses sometimes swing and miss. So rather than invest the months that it takes to do that work, time, money, effort, and so on, and have it fall flat, what I did was just be like, hey, I'm offering business coaching. Click here for information. And then started collecting money on day one. Then it's like, okay, now I'm being paid to refine the processes that go into the development of this course. And then I made the sales video for the course and an order form that basically the thank you page says, thanks very much, see you on March the 20th. So the lectures I've planned out already. Lecture 1 is written, but after that point, I'm going to be laying the track as the train is on it. But I've invested the same amount of time, effort, money in the development of that course, but I've at each stage validated those steps, which, it's specific to this course, but you can apply it to any of the stuff that, coaches might do in their side businesses. So for example, I think people get it asked backward. When you're an independent coach or, your personal training, the first thing people think about is like, okay, well, I'm going to need a website and I'm going to need business cards and I'm going to need a social media profile of this many followers. Then I'm going to write the program. Then I'm going to do this. Whereas like you can do all of those things and tank. Whereas if you just go in front of people, sell them face to face and be like, hey, do you want sessions? And you can tweak some things to make that offer more appealing and incentivize them to take action sooner. But you're going to get immediate feedback about whether or not people want that, and they're going to put their hand in their pocket. And then, of course, you can use that momentum. You can use the money from that to build the other stuff faster.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes tons of sense. Why do you think everybody has it backwards? Like, if that's the case, why?
I think there's maybe a few different reasons. One is that we confuse notoriety with success. So equating a large following with financial success is one thing. So then we're like, okay, well, I need a big following, and then I'll be financially successful. There's a bit of a disconnect. One can lead to the other, but financial success can buy you a following. Yeah. I think another thing is that there's an inherent fear about putting yourself out there and experiencing rejection. It feels much safer and more productive to post on social media and get the dopamine from the likes and whatever, than it does to go up to people and be like, hey, do you want to buy this? No, I don't. oh fuck, that hurt, you know. And you know, I'm not immune to it. Like I've said, I actually said on David Gray's podcast yesterday, which is, he's like, oh, you know, how do you deal with like blowback on social media, even though it attracts people and so on? I'm like, well, actually, it doesn't attract people, which is, my following's probably gone down 2,000 people since October, because I said, like, no, I'm not a coach. I'm not the rugby guy. I'm not going to fucking upload funny memes on request. I'm not going to put out exercise videos, all that kind of shit. And there's a bunch of people that I've turned off about that. But, you know, the revenue's doing this. Who cares? It's better to like Vernon Griffith, fucking smart guy. He said, you know, there's a difference between consumers and customers. Consumers want their hit of dopamine. They want to be entertained. Customers are the ones that put food on the table for your family. And it's better to have 10,000 followers, 25% of whom are dyed-in-the-wool customers that love your stuff, than it is to have 100,000 followers and have 1% of them be customers. You know, you got 99,000 consumers. And then I think, you know, the final thing, the final reason that people fail is just a lack of strategy, not knowing what to do, analysis paralysis and stuff like that. And that's basically what the course is there to do. You know, I've tried as much as possible, step by step, break it down, and we'll see.
So, you know, essentially you trying to help, you know, maybe a younger you, or, you know, is this for younger coaches? Is this for established coaches? Like who would it be for as you're looking back on, you know, not only your career, but as forward with the course?
Mate, I think there's, you know, two kinds of strength coaches. Ones who are constantly worried about money, getting fired, you know, being painted into a corner career-wise, and fucking liars. Like, you could probably limit the number of people that are truly independent in the field to like 50. And these are the ones that have been, for real.
Yeah.
Even amongst the P5 football guys, which is where you might get into. So financial independence, according to Scott Galloway, is a ratio. What do you make from passive investments versus what do you spend? If the income of the passive cash flow exceeds your monthly expenses, you are rich, you are wealthy. If that ratio is not lined up correctly, you are not wealthy. And you know, if you were to look at the number of people, even at the highest echelon of sports, where you're getting the, you know, $2, $3, $4, $500,000 a year, but then you factor in the half of it's tax, you have lifestyle creep, all that kind of stuff. I really doubt that a lot of those people, unless they've been smart with their money, can have an indefinite amount of runway where like, well, okay, well, I don't need a job. I don't need to look for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. With the highly paid sport coaches, when you get into the millions of dollars, I believe that can be done. But it really is not the case in strength and conditioning. So I honestly believe most, if not all, strength coaches, young, old, whatever, would be highly served by putting themselves in a financially more robust position. The ideal being, you work out whatever it is you need to survive each month. You get your side income up to that. And then, you know, if the shit was to hit the fan tomorrow, you can survive indefinitely without a job and or ramp up that income. Not saying that you're going to be a millionaire, but it's the peace of mind. I'm not sure if you've experienced it in your career. I for sure have experienced it, which is the second you walk out of the job that you've just been fired or you resigned from, you have that creeping anxiety of like, where's the next job coming from? I'm going to have to say yes to this. I don't feel really good about this. Like, there's people that we know in that situation or will be in that situation soon. Mm-hmm. And when you set yourself up to be financially robust through your own means, you're buying yourself time, the opportunity to step back and think, and to avoid that panic.
I mean, it almost sounds like you're doing the same thing that Strength Coach Network existed before, bridging the gap between university and real life for strength coaches. And now it's the same thing in terms of finances, because this doesn't get taught in schools, whether you're a strength coach or not, right?
It's been a while since I've been at school.
Same. I'll preface that too. You're right.
Yeah. You know, and here's the thing. I never miss an opportunity to shit on William and Mary.
As you
They they would talk forever about, well, our mission is student experience, and we want to put people in the community, and we want to do this, and we want to do that. And I'm like, you fucking lose money hand over fist. Step one of realizing your vision for the community, for the students, whatever bullshit you want to say it is, because it's really about winning, is to keep the lights on. If you hemorrhage money and you're going to go broke, you will cease to exist, and every other thing that follows in terms of your mission will die. And I believe the strength and conditioning field has started to get to the point where if you clearly, it's not about the money. Otherwise, we'd all be accountants and lawyers and shit like that. People want to be strength and conditioning coaches because it is an awesome job. At its best, it's an awesome job. Front row seat for the sporting events. You get a little bit of status. You get to be in large groups. You get to exercise. You don't have to wear suit and tie to work. All that kind of stuff. There is a price to be paid for those things, which is you're not going to make a lot of money. You're going to have to eat shit from admins and sport coaches that have a fraction of your education and knowledge. You're going to be painted into a corner a little bit. Your family life is going to suffer and so on. And I believe what cranks up those difficulties is a lack of money. I've been in the situation where I got paid more in a month than I made in my first year of coaching. And I'm sure if somebody offered you $1 million a year and said, you're going to have to, you're not going to be home 6 nights a week to put your kids to bed. You're not going to see your wife and stuff like that. You'd be like, who? I'm going to miss who? And, it just exacerbates the difficulty, which is when you're forced to eat that level of shit and be poor in the process. Yeah. And when you're risking yourself being in the position that you're not able to realize high level ambitions that you have for your career, what you feel the mission is of what you do, do not pass go. So if you can at least take those money problems off the table, you feel a bit more comfortable about, okay, I'm willing to eat a little bit of shit. I'm willing to put up with this. I'm willing to put up with that because I know that I'm not, not to be too dramatic, sacrificing my kids' future, my ability to put them into college, my ability to look after my wife, my ability to live in a nice house, like all that kind of stuff. Like we're starting to get to that point in the industry where you, believe it or not, are sacrificing those things to tell everyone like, oh, I work at Clemson. Oh, I work at Pitt. I work at wherever. And those institutions bake that into what they pay you. There's a reason high school pays more than P5 institutions because nobody wants to work at a fucking high school. It's the logo fever that those institutions take advantage of and force you to accept less so that you can tell this story to yourself and other people about, oh, I work for insert name of institution. And you're welcome to play that game. I've played it. Everyone plays it. But wouldn't it be great if you could play that game and not have to be financially on your knees as a barrier to entry of playing that game?
One of the things that I'm thinking about is, would this course also be for, we see strength coaches getting out of the field, and you mentioned high school, but, what about the ones that are getting into data and the tech? Like, is this also for them?
I won't speak to those things because I've not done them. Business is business. One of the things you talk about in the course is you want to niche down as much as possible because I can't remember who I was talking to, but basically the great thing about the internet is that it opens you up to customers all over the world. The bad thing about the internet is it opens you up to competition all over the world. And the way that you get around that is that you have to try and stake out a tiny piece of the internet or a tiny piece of the world where you are so intrinsically linked to it and you serve them to such a high level that nobody could hope to compete with you. Like the rugby guy. There's like 3 or 4 specialist rugby strength and conditioning websites that there were 10 years ago. And I was by far operating at the highest level. Except maybe, I forget his name. There was one guy that worked for South Africa. So, I'm not going to speak about data and technology and stuff like that. So, to backtrack, a business course is a business course is a business course. But there's a reason that it's strength coach money moves, because it's much more likely to succeed for me to own that piece of the internet. But candidly, the plan is to validate this course with strength coaches and then start to expand it out to ATCs, physical therapists, dietitians, personal trainers in general, all that kind of stuff. So conceivably, yes, but I'm not going to say like a definite yes, because I just don't know those areas.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And, you know, because you have been out of the field, and we can talk about it briefly, do you think those positions are good for the field for strength coaches? Does it give them some of that leverage where they can, you know, they can sit down at the table because they have other opportunities?
No. Because if you put yourself, this is the problem as well. If you put yourself in the shoes of the institution, all businesses, and that's all these places are, they're businesses. All businesses are incentivized to obtain the highest level of product or service that they can for the lowest amount of money. If, you know, if you're the AD and I work for you and the market pays $50,000 for a strength coach with a PhD and I pay him $200, what are you going to say to me as the AD?
I mean, yeah, like...
Yeah, you're fired.
So,
incredibly wasteful. And the thing is, the market sets the price based on supply and demand. So if you use a job offer, let's say Catapult offer you 100 grand. You get paid 50, Catapult offer you 100 grand to go sell GPSs, and you say to the school like, hey, pay me 100 grand or I'm going to leave. They'll be like, well, okay, we just found 10 people that will do it for 40. Off you go. What you can do in those situations, if you do have a job offer, you can use it to, there is some elasticity. So what you're factoring into is that if I'm the AD, there's an inherent drop in the quality of the training that athletes receive when I have to transition you out and transition somebody in and they have to catch up. There's the time it takes to find a new candidate and stuff like that. I might be willing to pay a premium to not go through with that. It's not going to be 50 grand. It might be, 10, 15, whatever. Problem with that is that it requires institutions to know good from bad, which is just not the case. And, interestingly, it is, in my opinion, straight up corruption when you have these individuals and they suddenly get paid 100 grand a year more, 200 grand a year more. And it's strictly because you've got a head coach who has their thumb on the scale.
No, 100% agreed. And I mean, it's interesting to hear your perspective with it. Does it almost make you, continuing the process of businesses and your business mindset and looking back, does it make you wish like, man, why did I become a strength coach? Like, was it worth it in the past? Like, just looking back, what would you tell your old self?
It's not that it wasn't worth it. What it is, I made the mistake of getting everything that I asked for. So I started my internship when I was turning 25, and I think midway through, we sat down and had lunch, and he's like, what are your goals? And I think I had 5 eventualities. So it was like, I want a full-time paid job as a strength coach at this club. Number 2, I want a part-time job at this club. Number 3, I want to go do a PhD or, go finish my master's degree. Number 4, I want any job, or, I want a training job anywhere. Number 5, I want any job. And I got number 1. And I told myself privately, like, I want to be a strength coach, head strength coach in the Premiership by the age of 30. Did it by 27, 28. Working internationally at the World Cup at 30. I was like, fuck this, I want to go to America. And then I got that, and I got to go to America, stuff like that. So it's like, I can't wish away all of that stuff because I got whatever I wanted, and it got me here. And those are experiences that are, I'm going to keep them for the rest of my life. Yeah. I do ask myself, like, hey, if this is the progress that I've been able to make working for myself full-time in just over 2 years, you kind of ask yourself like, fuck, what could have happened if I'd have started this at 23, 24, 25? But then it's like, it's hard to separate one from the other. Yeah. The websites grew because of the stuff that I was doing in the day job. Yeah. So I'm not, I don't regret it by any means, but I also don't crave it. You know, there are people in the field who've been doing it for 30 years, and they remind me of that guy from Shawshank Redemption when he gets released from prison. You just like don't know what the fuck you're doing, and it's like that has not been, nor will ever be for me.
So you've talked a ton about like you said pre-registration, like March 20, like what is it? Where is it? How do people do this if they're, you know, still listening to us and they're interested in it?
So you go to, I'm going to set up a URL redirect. So you go to callmekeir.com, and that will open up the sales page for Strength Coach Money Moves. And it's $250 off if people register before March the 20th. And sorry to Missy and Tim, but it is going to be a cohort based for the first 10 weeks. Weekly presentation, Q&A, Discord group to discuss all the stuff in the week. And there's going to be a bunch of worksheets that accompany the course and a list of practical tasks that have to be implemented and documented. And as I said, the goal is, you know, you're going to make $1,000 in those 10 weeks, or hopefully a lot more than that. The record is 16. And if you don't, pay the difference.
Now, what if anybody's listening and they're like, man, Keir, you're just so smart. I'm intimidated by you. Like, you don't even want those clients, or like, how do you feel about that type of stuff? Anybody that's kind of on the fence?
I very much doubt that anyone is intimidated intellectually by me. However, yeah, don't do it. You know, I'm not dying to have people do this course. You know, in fact, that's another thing that you talk about in the marketing module, which is basically, it's like velvet rope. You don't want to be the guy in the bar going up to guys being like, fancy a fuck, fancy a fuck, fancy a fuck. It's like, nobody feeds a hungry dog. And when you disqualify people, you increase demand. And then you can also avoid those situations where you get those clients that are drained. So it's like, I think I said in the sales page, like I only want to work with people on this course who are already getting good results in person, can dedicate the time, they have some patience, they can follow instructions, stuff like that. So yeah, if you're on the fence, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, if you're on the fence, get off the fence. Don't do it. Like that.
Yeah,
that'd probably
pick a
be the
side.
best. Yeah, pick a side. Get on, get off. Figure it out one way or the other. Those are a lot of the questions I had. Is there anything else that you kind of wanted to talk about, or things that we didn't touch?
I think that's it. Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah, I mean, I will also leave this with something that you've said before. Brevity is the weight of the soul, or what is it? But
brevity is the soul of wit.
There we go. We'll keep it right to the point. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Thanks.
See ya.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.